Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 263. And I love doing this show every day, but particularly Tuesdays in NFL season. But really, my favorite days to broadcast are days when I have an opinion that is counter to the mainstream, that is considered outlandish enough that Damonza, I'm going to tell you a quick little anecdote. My favorite, one of my legitimate, good to see you, pal. One of my legitimate favorite features of living in New York City is Zabar's grocery store on the Upper West Side. It's not even like a grocery store is probably, it's like overstating it. It's not a full-blown grocery store, but it kind of is.
Fresh produce almost.
Yeah, fresh produce. The greatest. I'm not Jewish, but my grandfather was, and so as a little kid, I was kind of introduced to bagels and lox, which is kind of a Jewish delicacy. And the single greatest smoked fish you can get in New York City is at Zabar's. Here's why I say all this. Unpaid free endorsement, by the way. And I could use a Zabar's endorsement because I went there Saturday or Sunday morning. I don't remember which. Whatever. The answer is I walked out of there with one packed to the gills, but one bag, and it was $340. Not a cheap place to get your smoked fish and such, but set that aside. Two of the guys who worked there accosted me about my Eagles takes. And accosted me is too strong, but two of them were like, "You got it, Nick. What are you seeing about the Eagles that no one else is? Why are you so down on them?" And I love those guys, Ray and the whole crew, so that's not a bad thing. But there was a lot of questions thrown my way about, why do you say this about Philadelphia? And I said, well, because I don't trust them. I don't think they're well coached. I don't think they have a good defense. And I don't know how much I trust the quarterback. Did you see Monday Night Football, America? We'll get into all of that. However, and also the Chiefs beat the Bengals for the third straight time. The Ravens also lost. And it was just for the Chiefs making the Super Bowl and for my takes, this weekend couldn't have gone better, except for a couple former number one overall picks, which we will get to as well. But here's what's not making the cut. 7 field goals is enough to beat Daniel Jones. The Giants lost a game. They scored 3 touchdowns, and the other team scored 0. The Chiefs in the pre-Mahomes era once lost a playoff game. They scored 2 touchdowns, and the Steelers scored 0. Speaking of the Steelers, Pittsburgh gives Russell Wilson a petty game ball. And evidently, I don't know if this is a real story or not. Sometimes I should ask the producers. They say even mayonnaise is discussed by Will Levis. I understand he puts mayo in his coffee. He's also a terrible quarterback. I don't know if that means somebody who runs like Hellman's social media took a shot at Will Levis. Regardless, that will be the entirety of our Will Levis coverage today. Instead, Damonza, let's get to the game last night, where the Eagles snatched a loss from the jaws of victory. Go ahead.
So the Eagles and Jalen Hurts could not get it done against Kirk Cousins and the Falcons yesterday. They had that cool, calm, and collected drive at the end to come closer to win it. So is this a bigger story on the Eagles side, or is it a bigger story on the Falcons side? What's going on?
Well, let's give credit.
You waited to
let's
tweet
give credit to the Falcons
until
quickly.
Jalen Hurts lost the game, by the way.
What do you
I
mean?
feel like he was dealing throughout, and you waited until it was over. Saquon drops the pass. The game would have been very different if he picks that up, and that's definitely not on Jalen Hurts. But
okay, all right. Okay, well, listen, so sometimes I live tweet games. Sometimes I just tweet at the end. Sometimes I don't tweet at all. The cool thing about my Twitter is it's my Twitter. So I will use it precisely how I want to use it. And this idea when folks are like, oh, you were awful silent. Oh, you mean I wasn't actively engaging the audience when it looked like I might be wrong? Instead, I popped up when I was clearly right? Yeah, that seems like kind of a perfect use of my own personal social media that I'm not paid to be on. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. Now, on the Falcons side of things, They were written off for dead far too early. And Bijan looked, the biggest story, everyone's going to be like, oh, Kirk looked better. Kirk was going to look better. Kirk is not going to be finished as a player. Now, he needs to look even better than he did for the majority of that game, but he looked better. The story for me for the Falcons is, man, I think Bijan Robinson can leave this season as the best running back in football, but that's more projection based on who he was at Texas. You saw some of that yesterday. So credit to the Falcons, because Damonza, I don't know if you have seen the Falcons' upcoming slate, but Sunday night, not exactly a welcome sight coming to Atlanta, the Kansas City Chiefs, then New Orleans, Tampa. So their next three opponents are a combined 6-0, so they needed this victory. But the story obviously is Philadelphia. So let's go through all of it. Damonza said it. If Saquon catches the pass, we're not having this conversation. But that's why you don't call a pass there. And I hate the analysis of, well, it was schemed up perfectly. Yeah. But a perfectly thrown pass has like a 3% chance of being dropped. And that's why in that spot, you don't throw a pass. That is coaching. The Philadelphia Eagles had a coaching disaster class last night. Sirianni has no rhyme or reason to when he does or doesn't go for it on fourth down. He went for it early, then he lost his mettle, he started kicking field goals, then at the very end of the game, this is not complicated. There's a minute 45 left. The Falcons have no timeouts. You have 3rd and 3. You have been gashing them on the ground. You run the ball. If you don't pick it up, you then go to the line of scrimmage. You then you waste the clock, draw it down to a minute, try to draw them off sides. If you don't, you call timeout. And then, with a minute left, here's the other thing, you go for it again. Because this is the thing that analytics folks understand, but coaches don't. And I've said it before, I will say it again. I know it's counterintuitive, but if you think you are the better team, if you think you have outplayed the opposing team, if you think if this game were to go to overtime, we have the better roster, I know it sounds crazy. Inside of 2 minutes, you'd rather be up 3 than up 6. Kicking that field goal is a net negative. Up 3, here's what happens. And all the data bears this out. The other team's a little more conservative. Once they get in field goal range, it's not 4-down territory, and they far too often play for overtime. So let's just say the Eagles had run it, and not picked it up. Obviously, if they pick it up, they win the game. But if they run it, don't pick it up. Here's the scenario. The Atlanta Falcons have the ball on the 2-yard line with 1 minute, needing to go a minimum of 60 yards, right? In order to tie the game. Instead, you opt into kicking a field goal, then kicking the kickoff out of the end zone. Now, again, worst case scenario, run it, don't pick it up. It's Falcons having 1 minute to go 60 yards to kick a 55-yarder to tie you. Instead, it was Falcons a minute 40 to go 70 yards, just 10 yards more, to beat you. It's insane. Insane decision-making by the head coach. So that part is on Sirianni. Now, once you do what he did, the other option is, hey, Eagles defense, that I hear so much about, don't let Kirk Cousins slice and dice you. 3 plays, you're at the 12-yard line. And I know everybody was like, oh, Nick, I know the Eagles had a bottom 5 defense in football last year, but they fixed it. How? By signing Devin White, who was a healthy scratch yesterday, by 2 draft picks, who I like. And by the way, Quinyon Mitchell's been good. Cooper DeJean has not been able to get on the field, really. But rookie corners and safeties are not going to save you their rookie season. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson had a great play on the 4th and 1, a bad play on the touchdown to Mooney. So, no, Vic Fangio got run out of Miami. No, that defense, where's the pass rush? Hassan Reddick seems to have ruined 2 teams' pass rushes. The Jets by not showing up, the Eagles by leaving. So, no, I don't trust the defense. And then, Damonza, I know you like him, but now we're to the Jalen Hurts part of the program, which is, here is the circumstance. You have a good kicker. You have a timeout. There's 27 seconds left. They're at the 43. So, their own 43. So, if they get to the 40, it's a 57-yarder, which is hard, but doable. So, let's say you need 20 yards. You need 20 yards to make it a very doable field goal. And you have a timeout, and you have 27 seconds. You got no business. You're down 1. A field goal wins the game. You got no business making that throw, Jalen Hurts. None. That's a bad decision. That's a bad decision. So you have a coaching disaster class, a defensive disaster class, and then Jalen, who had played well because he started running again, and with A.J. Brown not out there, he's just not going to be dynamic throwing the ball. Let me rephrase that. With A.J. Brown not out there, the Eagles' offense is not going to really work unless Jalen Hurts is running regularly, and to his credit, he was willing to. But then he made a terrible mistake. So no, Philadelphia, I don't trust you. I don't trust your coach. I intermittently trust your quarterback, and I flatly don't trust your defense. And now all of a sudden, Philly, at New Orleans, at Tampa. Going into the year, those 2 games looked like 2 imminently winnable road games. Now, let me ask you this, Damonza. Do you think right now a fairy godmother comes in and can wave a wand and says to the Eagles, I guarantee you a split. I guarantee you go 1-1 at New Orleans and at Tampa. You can't go 2-0. You can't go 0-2. Would they take it? Because I think right now they'd take it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, well, you're... Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, I mean, a split between the... Why wouldn't they take it, are you saying, as opposed to taking the 2-0?
I mean, if you were to ask the Chiefs right now, hey, I guarantee you can have a split. You know what I mean? If you were to, I think they would be like, no, we'll roll the dice.
Right.
We'll risk going 0-2 because we think we can go 2-0. I just think the Eagles, all of a sudden, those look like 2 tough games. And,
Well, you would say that was the biggest mistake that Jalen Hurts made the entire game. I get it was also in the biggest spot, but I didn't see him make a lot of mistakes throughout the game.
I thought he
without
played well.
A.J. Brown, he still made the passes that he needed to make. He got his receivers.
I thought he played well.
Yeah.
He's not. Listen, the main characters of the Eagles' loss are their coach and their defense, but just the final actor was Jalen. No, if we were doing blame pie, I would go 50% Sirianni, 40% defense, 10% Jalen Hurts. You know what I mean? Like that. So I'm not putting this on Jalen. It's just despite how bad the coach and the defense were, Jalen could have bailed them out with a better decision down the stretch and didn't. That's all. One other thing, Eagles folks, and this is also to my television colleagues, I tried to tell you guys that Jahan Dotson was not saving the day for anybody. Oh my God, who's guarding this Eagles threesome of receivers? Well, A.J. Brown misses a game. That would be a hell of a time for Jahan Dotson to step up. The guy ran 24 routes, 1 catch for 6 yards. Sometimes you are who you are. And so, I'm not here to say I told you so, except for the fact that that is literally exactly what I'm here to do. I told you so. And this is also, for the gamblers out there, a lesson in never, ever, under any circumstances, chase Sunday's losses with a big money line favorite bet on Monday. Because a lot of people did that. Now, a lot of people also had the Eagles, I'm sure, in the final leg of a tease, but this show has not yet earned the right to give teaser advice. And that is a collective thing. So I'm just here to, it's not you, Damonza, it's me too. I'm grading your teasers well, and then they're just going to die by halftime.
I mean, the Cowboys just owe me money on that one, man.
I know, the Cowboys owe you money. The Cowboys also, the Cowboys were the team, Damonza, that were the cause of you almost quitting gambling right when you started.
Oh, yeah. No,
they were the team that you woke up in the middle of the night and made your biggest bet of your life, and then Dak threw like a tipped pick six in overtime. Yeah, honestly, I remember that one.
That was my best failed teaser. Best failed teaser ever. I mean, it was a point. But yeah, so with the Jason Kelsey was in the booth, and Philly was still able to successfully run the tush push. Do you think that other teams should, bite into that?
I mean, maybe. Listen, I don't think it's pleasant for your quarterback. I don't think most teams want their quarterback to deal with that type of damage. Now, Jalen's physical and strong and can, but I just, I mean, it's certainly super effective. All right, let's go on to Chiefs-Bengals.
All right, so the Chiefs pull off another miracle. Yeah, so are we to the point to where it's going to be more surprising that the Chiefs don't pull out a comeback victory than end up losing the game?
I mean,
go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go.
No, I was going to say, Mahomes threw the 2 picks. They were looking down in the dumps, and they pulled it out, and that's supposed to be their biggest rival. So if that's their biggest rival and they do that, then what does that say to the rest of the league?
That's exactly right. I mean, listen, the Chiefs, that was maybe the worst game I've ever seen Mahomes play. The Chiefs turned the ball over 3 times. They had less than 300 yards of offense. They couldn't pick up a 3rd down, and they beat the Bengals. I mean, I don't know what now. Listen, the injuries are piling up. Hollywood Brown might not ever play for the Chiefs, and Pacheco's going to be out a couple months. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to matter. I think Pacheco will matter, don't get me wrong, but he'll be back for January and probably well before that. And in the meantime, they'll figure it out. And just because the internet is dumb, I have to address this. This idea of, the Chiefs have been bailed out and, Mahomes has X amount of interceptions wiped off due to penalties. Let me just state and shout out to Jason Anderson, former Kansas City radio host, who tweeted out the actual graphic from the NFL. So it is true that Patrick Mahomes has 16 interceptions nullified by penalty since he came into the league. But here is where those numbers are misleading. 8 of those 16 are free play offsides plays, where you see the other team jumped off, so you just, you take a deep shot that you would never otherwise take because it's a free play. So throw that away entirely, okay? He has 4 interceptions wiped out due to defensive pass interference in his career, okay? For context, The guy he was playing yesterday, Joe Burrow, has 5, despite the fact that Joe came into the league 2 years, 3 years after Patrick and has missed more than a full season with injury. So Mahomes has 4, Joe has 5. So this idea that, and this is the other reason the NFL, in my opinion, not the NFL, that the internet is just so dumb. In yesterday's game, Mahomes had 70 yards of passing wiped away due to offensive penalty. Burrow had 0. In Sunday's game, on the 4th and 6, before the obvious pass interference penalty, the Chiefs picked it up and they got called for a flag of illegal hands to the face, which was the right call, just like the DPI was the right call. Here's the deal, teams out there. You want to beat the Chiefs? You better fucking beat them. Because they are going to find a way to be in it. And Mahomes, even in a game, that's the other part of it. Even in a game where I thought he was playing as poorly as he had played maybe in his career, on back-to-back 4th downs, he hits Rashee Rice right in the hands to move the sticks. On 4th and 6, it's a perfect play to put him in field goal range, wiped off on penalty. On 4th and 16, it's a perfect pass that if Rashee Rice isn't interfered with, I think he comes down with. But we'll never know if he would have, because the Bengals had a rookie who doesn't play that often on the field in the biggest play of their season up to this point. Okay, do what you want. Like, I don't know what to tell you other than this. I will tell you this. Jamar Chase is stressed about his money. And you guys are messing around with that guy, and he's on edge, and he's tense, and that's why a perfectly legal, totally banal, standard tackle sent him to the damn moon, because he thought he was getting $100 million guaranteed this summer. He got $0 million guaranteed, so he's on edge about guys tackling him. That is, I don't blame him. I'm not taking shots at him, but that's what's happening. And so Cincinnati deserves better from ownership, in my opinion. They're not going to get it. And now all of a sudden, the reason I think the Bengals are going to be okay, Damonza, is because in their next 4 games, they have Commanders, Panthers, Giants in 3 of the 4, with a game against Baltimore in there. Baltimore, on the other hand, do you know what their next 3 are? Baltimore's
no,
got
I
to.
imagine it's, yeah, I mean, they were pretty.
Baltimore's got to tighten up.
Yeah.
Here's Baltimore's. Now it softens for them later. Baltimore's next 3: at Buffalo. I'm sorry, at the Cowboys, home for Buffalo, at Cincinnati. Whew. That's a. Now listen, the NFL giving them Chiefs, Cowboys, Bills, Bengals for their first 5 is, kind of outrageous. Like, the NFL doesn't pick who you play, but they do pick the schedule. That is a brutal slate, but it's also why you kind of got to take care of the home Raider game.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to actually the AFC contenders and discuss that.
So yeah, we all know you've got the Chiefs atop of any contenders board at the moment. But Baltimore and Cincinnati sitting at 0-2, Buffalo and Houston at 2-0. Miami's obviously dealing with the Tua situation, the concussions. Please don't bring up Trevor Lawrence. But who have you already written off as legitimate threats to your Chiefs?
Well, basically the whole league, but I'll do it the other way around instead. Here's how I would rank the non-Chiefs AFC teams. I think it is Buffalo and Houston in a class by themselves. I then, out of respect to how tough they play the Chiefs, would have Sorry, I don't know why. I'm such a dope. I'm looking at you in the screen, and I thought the thing sitting next to you. I don't know why. This is for the YouTube audience. I just started looking side by side, and I was like, "Where is Hollywood painted on this wall?" And I was looking around, and I couldn't find it. But it's not on my wall. It's on your wall. I don't know what just happened to my brain there. All right. Regardless, as I was saying, Houston and Buffalo. Houston's a tough one to clock because I don't think as a team they've played great in either week, but they've won kind of Chiefsy. Like week 1, I didn't think their defense played that well at all. CJ bailed them out. Week 2, I didn't think their offense played that well. Their defense bailed them out. And CJ, listen, man, CJ has now elevated to the spot where, 3rd and 11? Yeah, you probably pick it up. Like, he has been wildly impressive. Wildly impressive, in my opinion. And the Bills are just going to ride Josh Allen and the defense, as far as they can. So to me, those two teams are in class by themselves. Cincinnati, of all the teams in the AFC, Cincinnati's the one I would least like to see in the playoffs because every damn game is a field goal game with a minute left. Every time we play them. And so I respect that. After that, I'd oddly say the Chargers, because of their style, they're just going to run the ball, shorten the game, steal possessions. And then after that, I would have Baltimore out of respect for what they've been. I go ahead, Damonza. You winced when I had Baltimore
when you said
low.
Chargers initially, I was gonna say not Ravens, and then you put them in after. I get it. They're 0-2, but I do think they're a bigger threat to your Chiefs than the Chargers are.
Let me say this about the Ravens, because everyone thinks I'm making it about Lamar. It's not about Lamar. It's about that defense letting Gardner Minshew cook them up that whole second half. Picked up a 3rd and 7, a 3rd and 8, a 2nd and 20, a 3rd and goal from the 17. It's Gardner Minshew, guys. Bracket Devontae Adams. Dare anyone else to beat you. Like Baltimore, they miss Mike McDonald. I told you I thought they would. They seem to miss Roquan Smith. They have Roquan Smith. They seem to miss Patrick Queen. So the Ravens better tighten up, man. You can't be blowing double-digit leads to the Raiders at home. And so, yeah, and then there's I don't believe in the Jets. I don't believe in the Steelers. The Jags, when I picked the Jags to make the playoffs, I had them starting 2-0 because I thought Miami was mediocre and Cleveland was bad. Miami is mediocre, Cleveland is bad, and they're 0-2. I mean, just a disaster class in losing games. No, so the Jags are not on there. And so, yeah, man, that's how I would rank it. And then speaking
Ravens just
of,
need to get Derrick Henry working the way it needs to be working.
Yeah, but you saw Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers out here retweeting posts about him not getting the ball in the second half, like a receiver.
Do that type of stuff.
Okay, so listen, I'm not writing off Baltimore. I am saying that was a really bad loss. That's a really bad loss. All right, let's keep going to a couple number 1 picks.
Yeah, so your guy Caleb Williams, he was looking real stressed out there against the Texans. They were harassing him, and that 19-13 loss, I don't think he still hasn't thrown for a touchdown yet. But do you think this is the fastest people have ever gone from great situation to he needs more help?
Well, so yeah, I mean, I'm a little guilty of that, I must admit. I talked endlessly about how it's the best situation number 1 pick's ever been in. And then on TV yesterday, I talked about how bad his offensive line has been. So it's either, again, if I'm being fair, it's either I'm making excuses for him, or I miscalculated how good the offensive line was going to be when I was talking about the best situation ever. I think it's probably a little bit of both. Here's what I'll say. I think Caleb will continue to improve. I thought he was far better in week 2 than in week 1. Now, that is an incredibly low bar, but he cleared it. I think the offensive line has to get better, and I still think the Bears are dangerous because they won in week 1 despite getting nothing out of the offense. In week 2, against a team, Damonza, that we think is excellent in Houston, they played terribly on offense the whole game and somehow had the ball down 6. They had the exact situation Atlanta had last night. Ball down 6, no timeouts, go cook. And Caleb couldn't. But the fact that they almost stole that game is remarkable. Or they didn't almost steal it. Had a chance. They had the ball down less than a touchdown with a chance to go win it. So I think they'll be okay, but Caleb's got to be better. There's no doubt about it, and the offensive line's got to be better. Speaking of number 1 overall picks, let's move on.
Yeah, former number 1 overall pick Bryce Young has been benched 2 games into his second season. We know your opinion on him. You think he's too small. It's not going to be doable. But is this a fixable situation? Is it just his situation in Carolina, or is this going to go down as one of the worst trades in NFL history?
So here's the problem with people calling it one of the worst trades in NFL history. The trade allowed them, if they had wanted to draft CJ. If they had drafted CJ, nobody would say it's the worst trade in NFL history. It's not one of the worst trades ever. It's one of the worst picks ever. It's that you traded all that stuff and then drafted the wrong guy. But if they had traded all that stuff and drafted CJ, nobody would care, and they wouldn't have given up the Caleb Williams pick because CJ wouldn't have been so bad that they got the number 1 pick the next year. So it's not about the trade. It's about the wrong pick. Listen, I feel terribly for Bryce. He's obviously in a bad situation. They obviously don't have a lot of talent. They obviously have the worst ownership situation in the league. He also is too small. And it feels like piling on right now. I wouldn't have pulled the trigger this early. I would. They won't do it. But I would, Damonza, the one team out there that if I were like, I wonder what we could do with this guy, and we might need the quarterback. The one team that should call is Miami. We don't know when Tua's coming back. Even if when he comes back, you obviously worry he's going to sadly get hurt again. Miami, the weapons, Tua's undersized, not escapable, and has cooked there. Mike, both Alabama guys, boom, boom, out, boom, boom, out. If he could work anywhere, it would be Miami. So that's the one place where I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, I shouldn't say the one place. They're another team that, listen, if I were the New York Giants, I'd call, be like, get him in our building for a couple months and see. The reason I'm not suggesting that is that would not look any different than Carolina. It would just be a disaster and the kid would get killed. You know what I mean? But Miami, he might actually have some success, and it would be an interesting insurance policy. So, listen, Miami just signed Snoop Huntley, the former Ravens third stringer. They're starting Skylar Thompson. Like, they're in bad shape. Well, that's what he goes, like, his name's Tyler Huntley, but he goes by, Snoop's his nickname.
Yeah, it threw me off.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I don't know him well enough to call him Snoop, but I see people that cover the team call him Snoop Huntley, so I thought I was okay. And so, listen, Carolina's a bad situation. I also think it's going to be very, very hard, sadly, for Bryce Young to succeed. All right, we play a game of shocking starts after talking NFC contenders next. What's right? Hey guys, looking for your next favorite tequila? Terramana is a premium small batch tequila founded by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Each bottle of Terramana is meticulously crafted from 100% fully mature agave, slow roasted in traditional brick ovens, and distilled in handmade copper pot stills. Try Terramana today in the People's Margarita, deliciously refreshing drink made with Terramana Blanco, lime, agave, nectar, and pineapple juice. Terramana is also the perfect pairing when inviting friends and family around to watch sports and celebrate the big games together. For more information, visit Terramana.com and follow on social media at Terramana. Must be 21 years or older. Please enjoy responsibly. Terramana Small Batch Tequila, 40% alcohol by volume, imported by Siete Buck Spirits, White Plains, New York. All right, Damonza, let's go to the NFC side of things. It's kind of an AFC heavy A block, except for, of course, the Eagles Falcons discussion. So let's go to the NFC side.
So the top NFC contenders, San Francisco and Detroit, both suffered upsets this week. Purdy didn't have all his Avengers, and Detroit ran into the Baker buzzsaw. It's only week 2, but is the NFC more wide open than ever? Or more open than we had initially thought. Sorry.
Well, listen, I mean, yeah, it's almost so open that a team with a rookie quarterback maybe could win the conference. Maybe those are the circumstances you would need to have foreseen to make such an audacious pick. I'm talking about the Bears. I'm talking about my Bears pick and it being that wide open. But here's the thing. Let's talk about San Francisco and Detroit. Their losses for a moment. Detroit has 2 kind of ominous rain clouds off in the horizon, hanging over their season at all times. And they both reared their heads in this game. So listen, I love Detroit's roster. I think they've drafted well. I think they have talent. I think they do basically everything well. There's not an obvious weakness of the team. Aiden Hutchinson's playing out of his mind. But my 2 concerns with Detroit, the first one is this. Dan Campbell's game management has always, for me, been a little on the lacking side. And in this game, the reason he was teary-eyed at the podium afterwards when he said the coach cost him this game is because they screwed up the end of half and lost 3 points. They sent out the field goal team when they weren't supposed to. They had a 10-second runoff, just disaster. 3 points, big deal. The other one involves Goff. And Damonza, I'm going to put you on the spot, but I'm going to harken back to Thanksgiving when we were watching the Lions together. What's the one thing that makes Jared Goff instantly turn into a pumpkin every single time?
A blitz.
Yeah, getting home with the blitz. Pressure. Generating. If this guy will go from... Is he the most accurate on-time quarterback in the league to instant, as Wilds would call it, pumpkin mode, the moment you break through that Lions offensive line? And I understand every quarterback's worse when pressured, but this is stark, man. And you saw it in this game. He just threw one horrific pick the moment he got pressured. And both of those things popped up in this game that they really had no business losing. I mean, if you look at the overall, they scored 16 points despite Goff threw for 300. They ran for $150. They had 460 yards of offense. You know how many yards of offense Tampa had? 216. They more than doubled them up, man. And they converted, they being Detroit, a fake punt. So that part's concerning. Now there's the Niners side of things. All right. We're gonna get to find out. And I've wanted to find out. Now maybe there'll be egg all over my face. Maybe it's gonna be like, Nick, what are you gonna say now? Purdy went out there and cooked with no Christian McCaffrey and no Debo. Maybe. I know that when one of them has missed time in his career, He's 1-4, 4 total touchdowns, 8 turnovers, and they average 20 points per game. I know that. I know that in this game against the Vikings, he was missing just one of them, and they scored 17 points. He had 2 turnovers and could have had 3. So we'll see. We don't have to totally relitigate, everything I feel about Brock Purdy. It is what it is, so to speak. I would be nervous if I were a Niner fan. Now, what is nice for them is their next 2 games are Rams-Patriots. The Rams are just decimated by injury. Absolutely ruined by injury in week 2. It sucks for them. And the Patriots, I don't think, are very good. But after Rams-Patriots, Seahawks, Chiefs, Cowboys, Bucks, Seahawks, Packers, Bills. That's the stretch. Seahawks, Chiefs, Cowboys, Bucks, Seahawks, Packers, Bills. So, I left out, I'm sorry, the Cardinals are the first one. It goes Rams, Patriots, Cardinals, then that stretch. So, you really need to take care of business here. And we'll see. But that Vikings loss is an intriguing data point, as I would call it. And we'll see how Purdy looks moving forward. All right, what game are we playing?
Today we're going to play shocking starts. So there's plenty of football left, obviously, but there's a lot of teams that have shocked us going undefeated. And then on the other side, there's a lot of teams that have shocked us going 0-2. So your job is to determine which shocking start was less predictable. First off, you faded New Orleans, who has 91 points in 2 games, while heaping praise and bets on the 0-2 Rams. More shocking start, Saints or Rams?
Oh, the more shocking start is clearly the Saints. Listen, I really liked the Rams going into the year, but I thought they could lose week 1. That was against Detroit. So a 1-1 wouldn't have shocked me at all. And listen, the Rams...
They played on a short week, too, on their second game, I guess.
Well, and it's also Cooper Kupp is out. Puka Nacua is out. Jonah Jackson is out. Their first and second string left tackle are out with injury. They have been, and so right now the Rams are down their top 2 guards, their top 2 tackles, and their top 2 receivers. I don't know how the offense is supposed to function under those circumstances. I just don't. The Saints, on the other hand, scored points on their first 15 possessions of the season with Derek Carr. They scored on all 9 of their possessions in week 1 that Carr played, and then 6 consecutive touchdown drives with Carr against the Cowboys. That is remarkable. Alvin Kamara, Damonza, had 10 total touchdowns, receiving and rushing combined in 2022 and 2023 combined. 2 seasons combined, 10 touchdowns. He had 4 against Dallas. And so, that one is shocking.
Is Dallas's defense just taking a step back, or is New Orleans
I
don't
know.
Deal?
Because,
what's going on?
I don't know. Because Dallas's defense looked awesome in week 1. But that was just a disaster class for them. For the record, I don't yet believe in the Saints. I just want to be I want to be clear on that.
They play the Chiefs week 5, right? That'll be a real test for them.
At the Chiefs Monday Night Football.
Yeah. Because they got a couple games in between,
Saints,
but I don't think they're real tests.
Home for the Eagles is week 3. So that one is, but I think they should be able to cook up the Eagles defense. Then at the Falcons, at the Chiefs, home for the Bucks. And so, listen, week 1 you can chalk up to they played the Panthers. Week 2, going to Dallas and wrecking them as touchdown underdogs, that's noteworthy. So the Saints, but I still don't believe in them. Next.
The Vikings season went from disaster to vindication for Colin Cowherd. The Ravens had an understandable loss to start their season, then an inexcusable one to the Raiders, obviously. More shocking, Vikings or Ravens?
Ravens being 0-2 is more shocking. Kevin O'Connell's an excellent coach, man. I screwed up in doubting Matt LaFleur and his ability to get Malik Willis ready. He's an excellent coach, and Kevin O'Connell has, made Sam Darnold look good, and Justin Jefferson's helped as well. Justin Jefferson. How about Justin Jefferson with the quote of the week? Being asked about, here's what the Niners, did you see this about Garrett Wilson, Damonza? It's so good. So the Niners played the Jets in week 1, they were playing the Vikings in week 2. The Niners slowed down Garrett Wilson. So some of the reporters were like, the Niners defense, here's what they did against Garrett Wilson. And Justin Jefferson was not being a jerk, just matter-of-factly. He was like, yeah, respectfully, I'm not Garrett Wilson. And then he just lit them on fire. I mean, so good. Like respectfully, he's a good player. I'm the best receiver alive, and they're not going to be able to shut me down. It's so good. And by the way, speaking of best receiver alive, he's not in the discussion yet, but Marvin Harrison Jr. sure announced himself this weekend. Was like, everybody's making fun of me, saying I'm slow. Saying I didn't run in week 1. How about I have 130 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter of week 3 or week 2, and you all shut the hell up.
Kyler finally cared about getting him the ball.
Yeah. I mean, Kyler. So can I say something about the Kyler thing? Because whenever I bring up Bryce's size, or like he's the same height as Kyler, guys, think about every awesome Kyler throw that you remember. He's not standing in the pocket, reading. He's out on the move, making athletic and great throws on the move. But the reason that matters, and I know people think this is dumb, but it's true. Kyler has to get out on the move because he can't see over the offensive line. And Bryce can't get out on the move. So his vision is blocked. But we were talking
how incredibly hard it is to muster up that one play for Kyler. Like the size, like he does all that to get one, and it's like he just did all that to get 25, 30 yards.
Just did all that.
It's just got to do, and he's got to do all the time.
It's just a hard way to now. But also, Kyler is a legendary athlete. Like, Kyler was one of maybe the greatest high school football player in the history of the state of Texas. So he is super strong. He's fat. Like, he is a very unique small quarterback. Yeah. Listen, the more shocking, is Baltimore. Because you just can't lose to the Raiders. All right, next.
You picked the 2-0 Steelers to miss the playoffs and the 0-2 Bengals to win the division. So you must be at least a little stunned here. More shocking, Steelers or Bengals?
I mean, the Bengals 0-2 start is shocking because they had the Patriots in week 1. But for the record, just real quick. So, because here's the AFC North, NFC North, AFC North right now. The Steelers are 2-0. The Browns are 1-1. The Bengals and Ravens are 0-2. Right now, this moment, who do you think is the favorite to win the division in Vegas?
It's probably the Ravens. The Bengals are probably favored, but I got the Ravens winning that division.
So the Bengals are 2-1. The Bengals are 2-1. The Ravens are 2.1-1. So they're basically tied. And the Steelers, there's a mosquito in here. And the Steelers are 2.7-1. So the Bengals are still the favorites as far as the division goes, but it is very close. The Steelers beating Atlanta in week 1 was not shocking to me. And the Steelers this week, who the hell did they beat? I can't even remember. That game's like blacked out. Oh, the Broncos. That's not shocking at all. I mean, the Broncos, listen. Remember Sean Payton being like, I tricked everybody about Bo Nix. I tricked all these people. Okay, Sean Payton. All right, buddy. Like, it could get late early in Denver, pal. You got check down Charlie, the 8-year senior, Bo Nix, can't throw the ball more than 5 yards down the field. I'd be a little nervous over there. So the more shocking, Go ahead.
Yeah, more shocking is Pittsburgh. Who would you bet to win the AFC North though? You said who was
Bengals. I'd still bet the Bengals.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because the schedule, they're, again, 3 of their next 4, Washington, Carolina, and the Giants, with the Ravens game in the middle there. So I just feel like worst case scenario, they're 3-3 after their next 4. Baltimore's best case scenario, given their schedule, is they're 3-3 after their next 4. I don't believe in Cleveland, and I just don't think Pittsburgh's going to get to 11 wins. So you know what? So yeah. So I think it'll come down to the Ravens and the Bengals, and I like the Bengals. All right, last one.
Looks like the Jags betting ban may have been a smart move on your part. Your Prince is 0-2, while another quarterback with flowing blonde hair is 2-0 in LA. More shocking, Chargers or Jags?
Oh, definitively the Jags. I mean, they had Miami and Cleveland in the first 2 weeks and lost both games, and they were in position to win both games. And I can't defend it.
With that being the Jags, those aren't 2 terrible teams to take your first 2 L's to. I mean, it's Miami.
No,
I feel
but
like they're in like the same tier of teams. But
no, right now they're in a lower tier. I understand that, but my point is this: I thought the Jags were gonna make the playoffs, right? When I'm going through their schedule and I see in the first 4 weeks they have Miami, Cleveland, and then the next 2 games are at Buffalo, at Houston. I'm like, oh boy. Well, 2-2 is fine, but these were the 2 wins. Now to be 2-2, they got to go at Buffalo and at Houston. That's not good, man. Like, that's a real big problem for me. And so, I mean, here's the problem for the Jags. Still remaining on their schedule. At Buffalo. At Houston. Home for the Packers. At the Eagles. At the Lions. Home for the Texans. Now, almost every other game is not that bad. But those are tough games. I didn't even include the Bears game in London. It's not good. It's just not good. The Chargers are just doing exactly what you expected the Chargers to do. Just going to run the ball with Harbaugh, and he's going to be thrilled. And the Chargers being 2-0 when they start the year home for the Raiders and at the Panthers, that's not only is that not shocking, it's almost mandatory. Like, if you're going to, like, you have to start the year off 2-0 if those are the first 2 games you get. All right, quick break, come back, answer some listener questions next. What's right? All right, welcome back in. What's right with Nick Wright? All right, Damonza, let's get to some listener questions.
Kevin Gillen. Nick, are you still high on Dylan Raiola? One of the broadcasters Saturday made an offhand remark about him in the Heisman. Too soon or hot take?
I don't think he's going to win the Heisman this year. I think he's going to be a leading contender for it next year. I think he's been good. I don't think he's been Heisman worthy through. I mean, they're 3-0, but he's averaging 230 yards per game, has 5 touchdowns through 3 weeks. Like, so yeah, too early. And he's just like, listen, I think he's the number 1 player in the country, and as a true freshman, he's been awesome, and I really like him. But he's not going to be a Heisman guy as a freshman. I think it would be disappointing if he goes his entire college career and never is a Heisman finalist. I think he's that level of player, but I don't think this year. Next.
Peter Deeb, question for Nick. Can the Cardinals win the NFC? Kyler looks like the best quarterback in the conference.
I don't think that defense is good enough to win the conference. And I obviously worry about Kyler's ability to play 20 games. But that is, that's another story. So he has played great, and I think their offense has been good. I don't think they have the defensive personnel to be a true contender. Next.
John Merck, Nick, the Saints offensive coordinator is Shanahan Tree, and they cooked Dallas. Gambling wise, is this something for Dallas going forward to fade them against this scheme?
Oh, okay. That's a smart question. Listen, the Clint Kubiak kid seems to be doing a really nice job. And so shout out to him. He's the offensive coordinator for the Saints. I don't have enough data on that yet, but that is something like, was that the Shanahan
Packers also
scheme?
got Cowboys in the playoffs too.
Crushing them? Oh yeah, and killed them. And the Niners always have success against them. Oh, that's something. Okay, and then hold on a second. Did the Cowboys lose? The Cowboys played. Didn't they play the Dolphins last year? Am I making that up? I thought they did near the end of the year. And was that the Dolphins? And the Dolphins beat them. It was 22-20, but they beat them. And that was the Dolphins' only win against a good team last year. All right, you have my attention. Shanahan Tree guys against the Cowboys. And you know what, John Merck? That might make the television show. That's an interesting one that I hadn't thought of. Dusty, if you're watching, why didn't you think of this? I mean, thanks to John Merck, we have a great we got some great info. He's just out here watching a podcast. Dusty and Josh, I hold you two accountable for not coming up with this first. Next.
Indy Axton, how far do the 49ers have to go for them to restructure everyone's contracts again and run it back?
I mean, listen, the Niners can run it back for another year, even if they extend Purdy, but the clock is ticking on how much longer they can do that, and I don't think they will run it back. And it's less about will they run it. Well, here's the thing. You can restructure contracts and stuff, but you have so many guys that are free agents. Your second, Mooney Ward, you have key guys that, Dre Greenlaw, Hufanga, that aren't under contract. That's where I think it's going to come and bite them a bit. All right, let's just go to the next couple ones quickly.
Luke Sanders, Nick, do you think treating the boundary in the back of the end zone of the same as the sidelines on kickoffs could alleviate the issues with the new kickoff rule?
Maybe. I haven't really, I'll be honest with you, thought enough about the best way to attack tweaking the new kickoff rule. I think it's a good idea that's not perfect yet, but I don't have off the top of my head the way I would fix it because I haven't spent enough time thinking about it. All right, last one.
Fantasy football is pain. What is the earliest season the Panthers could compete?
Could truly compete? The absolute earliest? 2026. The absolute earliest would be you draft your right quarterback next year. You know what I mean? You build your team up through the draft this year. You get the right guy, and in 2026 you're competing. That's the absolute earliest. The sad answer is probably when Tepper sells, which might be never. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Kind of a downer to end the podcast on. Great job, Damonza. It was a fun pod. An hour exactly. Got a lot done. Good luck to everyone with your Thursday night bets. But we'll talk to you before Thursday. We'll be on here for Thursday for the Gambling Show. Talk to you guys then. What's right? Hey, thanks for watching. If you're still here, do me a favor. hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes. After you've done that, one more favor, go to your favorite audio platform of choice and subscribe there as well. Don't forget, we're live every Tuesday and Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern-ish. 10:35, 10:40, it sometimes changes, but that's why you hit the bell. You hit the bell so you're notified. You subscribe so we can get to 200,000 followers. We're right around 150,000. We'd love to get to 200,000, get Damonza another plaque. So like, subscribe, rate, send a rating too. Do all that cool stuff. Thanks, guys.